a crucial moment on fourth down. A lot of people talking about this. The Lions' win probability by going for it on 4th and 3 was 39.1%, according to ESPN Analytics. If they had attempted the field goal, it was 38.8%. So the numbers say this was basically a coin flip, and Dan Campbell chose to be aggressive, as he's always done. And can you blame him, right? The Lions added 63 points of win probability by going for it on fourth down in their first 19 games of the season. That was the 4th best in the NFL. Obviously, the aggressiveness did not work out in the conference championship. The Lions cost themselves 18 points of win probability with their fourth down decisions on Sunday. Here's Dan Campbell on the decision making.
They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out.
Mina, we lean on you in these situations. Did you like what Campbell did on some of those fourth down decisions?
I thought both attempts were defensible. Of course, we always just debate the ones that fail. They kick the field goal at the end of the first half. You remember that? Instead of going for it, that could also be considered a decision. Not one that I disagreed with, to be clear. Our model had them as toss-ups, as you pointed out. We never know what the team's models say. I will say, I didn't realize this in the moment. I only learned later that the kicker, Michael Badgley, was only 50% on his career from 45 to 50 outside. So I'm sure that factored into things as well. That is not a gimme. I do object to a couple of things Campbell did. On those plays, I was surprised that neither of them, they put Jared Goff under center, after he'd been killing them with the boot. In the second one, he was actually an empty, so there wasn't even the threat of a run. That surprised me. And then where I think Campbell deserved far more criticism and really should get the bulk of the attention today, much more so than the fourth down decisions, was running the football on third down at the end of the game. And then having to take the time out. Because at that point, time matters more than points. You're basically leaving it up to an onside kick, which essentially means the game is over, guys. So either you have to be aggressive throwing the ball and managing the clock, or just kick the field goal and wait. That, to me, was the worst mistake he made of the entire game, not the fourth down decisions.
Dan, can Dan Campbell overrule the call of Ben Johnson, or does he have to give him the leeway in that moment?
I think you're giving the leeway. He's gotten you there. Here's my pushback on that call. And I know there's, fourth down conversations. In that moment, you're calling your best play. You're really calling. I've seen Detroit do that multiple times this year and run it in. Montgomery's in the game. You're calling your best play. I think if Jamison comes down and makes that block, it's a different story. So I think you're just telling him, hey, get us in the end zone, And I understand the vantage point of not having that timeout in your bag ends up being. I think it's really important. I thought both fourth down decisions were the right calls. Who are we? Our best units are offense. And who are we playing against? San Francisco, we've controlled the game. You got to look at what ended up being the cause for that fourth down situation. Both third downs, you sit there and go, credit San Francisco for what they did. Both third down calls were good calls by Ben Johnson, and plays were made by San Francisco. And both fourth down calls, one's a drop, and one Armstead blows the play up. So I think if we take the step back, Dan Campbell, it's not black and white. Dan Campbell's going, who are we best at? Offense or defense? Offense. Who are we playing against? San Francisco. What's their weakest units? Their defense. And I don't want to give their offense the ball back. So I think that's who they are. That's how the game was going, and they were controlling the game. They just didn't make either of those plays.
Dan, that's what I talked about, man. The aggression is who they've been, but the point is, the aggression wasn't the problem. It was the execution.
Right.
That was clearly players not making the plays. And these are plays that we think should be made routinely in the NFL. The other one was the third down that Reynolds dropped on the crosser. That was a critical play in the football game. But the fourth down, especially, and you hate to kind of surmise it in that because you don't want to put it on one player, but that is what Dan Campbell is thinking. And then these missed opportunities. The one to Jahmyr Gibbs, this route here to Sam Laporta. The Detroit Lions left this game saying we handed the San Francisco 49ers a win. Look, I know Brock Purdy was phenomenal, and we talked about it earlier in the show. But if you go back to opportunity after opportunity with the Detroit Lions. They gave this game away, man, because of poor execution. And they only ran it 8 times in the second half, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is when people lose games, I've never lost a game and went home and went, man, we did every single thing correct.
Right.
Right? When you lose games, there are going to be some things that you didn't do correctly. There are going to be some mistakes that you made. And I know nobody's probably going to agree with me. I hated taking some of those early shots. I know on one of the flea flickers, Jamison Williams had an opportunity to catch it. Josh Reynolds was held up because there was some pressure on Jared Goff on the quarterback throwback. Sam Laporta probably had an opportunity with a better throw. I thought the way that they were managing the game early with the runs, also with the smart throws inside the numbers when playing against zone, was such a way to not only burn clock, but continuously move the ball. And I felt like some of those early misses put them behind the sticks.
To the points about execution, the Lions had 3 drops on Sunday. That's tied for their most in any game this season.